interesting financial concepts, which would give us a great opportunity to really talk about some stuff. And so I thought I would kind of jump into that. Now, first off, I want to say it was great to talk to a lot of you last night when we had our Prime meeting. Prime stands for Passive Recurring Income Machine. There were several hundred of you there, and we talked about stock options, different plays you can make, different ways you can make money tomorrow, today actually, if you jump into the market. So I encourage you to look around. There is a lot of income when it comes to not just investing directly, but also selling stock options. You can sell stock options just like you sell pairs of shoes, or just like you sell ice cream, just like you sell anything. And so, if that's something, if you're looking to figure out ways to make extra money, that might be something worth taking a look at. But just like a lot of other types of businesses, there are investments required that have to be made to get the business going, right? So if someone says, "Hey, you can make money running a restaurant," somebody's got to pay for the restaurant, right? So that all kind of becomes part of the dynamic as well. So anyway, if you want to take a look, you can actually text the word options to the number 87948, and we have some stuff available that you might find interesting. So text the word options to the number 87948 if that's of interest to you. Now, speaking of that, I'm going to let everybody know that we're starting class. We do this every single morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, in case you're new. And this is important, right? Because habits are everything. Ultimately, what we find in our Black Financial Therapy department, where we have the best scientists and therapists helping us break down the psychological barriers to building Black wealth, is that we find that healing is really important when it comes to financial decisions. Also, habits matter. Your habits shape you, right? The things you are wired to do on a day-to-day basis, which may come from your intergenerational experience, or sometimes from your trauma, really shapes your subconscious mind. And in fact, my wife, who's this insane therapist who gets up and goes to the gym every morning at 5 a.m. and still wears the same dress size she wore in college because she's that fanatical about it. She reads 22 books a year. I don't know if I mentioned that to you about her. I told you I married just this crazy black woman, but I love the crazy. I like the smart women. Shout out to the smart black women out here. Y'all deserve respect, and I don't think you get enough of that. I just want to make sure that's clear. Anyway, she reads 22 books a year, and one book that she read, and I got to find the title. When I bring her back in, I'll have her tell you the title because some of y'all have asked me about it. And it's on the subconscious mind. And she read this book multiple times, and I don't know why she read the book three times, but she's really, really into the subconscious mind. And I said, one day I said, "So what are the three things that influence the subconscious mind the most?" She said, um, repetition, the things you repeat. In case, first, before I even mention this, let me tell you, the subconscious mind drives everything. That's how they manipulate all people, not just black people. I mean, for you, they have a special type of programming, but for everyone, the subconscious mind is absolute. I mean, that's how they get your money. That's how they get you to go to war, and that's how they get you to buy into their politics. The subconscious mind is everything. So, she said repetition, just the things that you just repeatedly do over and over again. Symbolism, if you watch politics, you'll notice how we don't usually get substance from politicians. They'll give us symbolism. They're like, "We won't give you your reparations, but we will give you a trophy, or we will name a street after Martin Luther King, right?" But they're like, "But don't ask about no money because that's too real. Y'all keeping it real. Right? Y'all don't want reparations. Y'all want real parations. We was gonna give y'all fake orations. Fake orations are just as good, but y'all want real parations. But we can't have that. We can't have you asking for things that are real." And so she said repetition, symbolism, and trauma. She said trauma, it just goes deep in your mind. In fact, she got a trauma certification. That's among the many things that she's done in her career. So in her trauma certification, she came in, she was like, "Boyce." I said, "What?" And she said, I can't believe how if you were traumatized as a kid, that like you'll die, you're supposed to die earlier. Like your likelihood of catching diseases like cancer and Alzheimer's and everything goes up because of trauma. Like trauma really throws you off. So healing from that is really important. So if you heal, that makes it easier for you to just make good decisions. Everything from like, you know, It could be something simple like why do I have four kids with four baby daddies, or why did I decide to kill that dude in the club on Tuesday, to why do I keep spending my money even though I know that I'm not supposed to, or why do I keep sleeping with my ex even though I hate her or hate him, or whatever it is. Why do I drink so much? Why am I gambling away all my money? Like trauma, like that trauma and the impact it has not just on your subconscious mind but on your body as well. I'm finding that there's really just sort of this whole interesting space of like trauma responses that if you are traumatized like I was, you have to be really careful about those trauma response. Like for example, if you ever say things like, "This is why I don't loan money to my relatives," like that's a trauma response in a way, right? Because that means you just decided all your relatives are janky and terrible, and you have to distance yourself from family in order to be safe. That's kind of a weird reaction. Family's supposed to make you feel safer, but why are you scared of your own cousins? Like that's kind of crazy, but that's how we get that way because we have these experiences, and it's like I can't depend on you. I'm scared of you. You're gonna hurt my feelings, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm gonna just sit over here by myself, and I'm gonna go build my little business by myself. I'm not gonna ask for help from nobody, because you can't trust people because people let you down. They abandon you just like my daddy did, and next thing you know, you just got this whole pile of stuff, and it's just it's kind of ugly. So think about those things. Just work on that. And I think that really helps in terms of making decisions that are smart, financially, health wise, and otherwise. But anyway, let me jump into the story about this woman. So there was this lady. Her name was Katrina. What's her last name? Katrina Bookman. So Katrina Bookman goes into this casino and she basically does the slots, and which, by the way, is a terrible investment decision. But if gambling's like I mean, that's an easy way to lose everything. But she's in there and she lucks out. She wins $42.9 million dollars on this machine. And so she goes and she's all excited. She even took a picture, a selfie in front of the machine. This was about like 2010. And she's thinking her whole life changed. And then they come to her and they're like, "We're sorry, ma'am. The machine was broken. It malfunctioned." So when they told her it malfunctioned, they came to her and they were like, "We can't give you the $42.9 million dollars, but we can give you back the $2.50 you put into the machine. And also we can give you a free steak dinner." Now, I don't know how many of y'all would have probably got to like whooping ass that day. I don't know. Maybe some of you are nonviolent. I'm nonviolent except for when somebody has it coming. And so I'm nonviolent except for when I'm violent. And that's the kind of thing that would have me in there cussing people out. I would be ghetto. Like y'all wouldn't even recognize me. I wouldn't be You'd be like, where's Dr. Watkins? No, Dr. Watkins is nowhere to be found. Boyce is nowhere to be found. Coco's here though. Coco's my nickname when I was a kid. Coco is here, so he's different from Boyce and Dr. Watt. So yeah, I would completely. I would be like it would infuriate me, right? Because I mean, you're depressed for life. You're like, oh my God, I almost had $42 million, and now you're lying to me. And so what? If you want to know how the story ended, she goes to court like anybody would. She loses in court. They basically confirmed that the machine malfunctioned. Um, they said the max payout on the machine, that the most the machine could pay out was $6,500. And when she lost in court, she didn't get anything. She didn't even get the free steak dinner. They didn't even give her the steak dinner. So I should mention the name of this crooked ass casino, or well, maybe I mean, maybe they legitimately broke down, but I think they did. It's called the Sphinx. It's the Sphinx slot machine. Sorry, at the Resorts World Casino in Queens. So y'all should just know which casino did that janky ass stuff to that lady. I mean, come on, that's like they were giving her that was reparations right there. They owe that lady that money. You better write that check. But anyway, what's crazy too is they also the same thing happened in Colorado. Exact same thing. Somebody else won 42 million, exactly the same amount, or 40 million or something. And they were like, "Oh, the machine broke." Now is that a scam? I don't know. They claim the experts verified it and all that, but I still think they should have been liable for something. Like I think there should have been a penalty, right? I think at the very least they should be like, look, we know your machine broke, but you screwed this lady's life up. by doing this, and so you should give her at least some sum of money where you're gonna feel it, but it's not gonna bankrupt you. So maybe $2 million, right? 2 million. Sure, she's disappointed because it should have been 42, but 2 million is enough to at least let her quit her job, and live her best life. So I don't know. I kind of feel like they should have had a compromise. To give her nothing was really, I think, quite cruel. But anyway, here are some things you should know about casinos, and a few things you may or may not know. I think it's important to know these things because right now, and we talked about this in terms of protecting your resources and protecting yourself from people who are not going to protect your resources. See, a lot of y'all are doing well. A lot of you are single. Any single people in the building? How many of y'all are single? How many of y'all are single and have a nice job or or investing or doing something that's going to build your wealth? Give me a yes in the all the single people. Raise your hand in the chat. All right, so you're single. You're meeting people, and I can tell you that if you're not wealthy yet, your wealth is gonna grow. You're coming to this class every day. You're sitting and talking to a finance PhD every single morning. Your wealth has to grow. We've done surveys on you guys. Your money is growing. You have more money in your pocket because you're coming here, and we're talking about all the secrets of money. So here's the thing: when you are acquiring these resources, not only do you have to protect your resources from yourself and your own bad decisions, you got to be thoughtful about the decisions of people around you. I know many, 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 many people, male and female, who went broke, not because of something they did, but because of something that was done by somebody they trusted. In fact, there was, I'll tell the story, then I'll give you the data in a minute. There was this singer. I was up, I had insomnia one night, and I was scrolling through my phone like everybody does, and I saw this beautiful black woman um that was from the 1940s who was singing a song, and she just and everybody was, it was all these white people because back then that's what it'd be, one black person on stage and a big crowd full of white people. And but she was wearing a really nice dress, and it was like they were so eager to hear her sing, and she just opened her mouth and it just sounded like the angels were singing. And I said, "Oh my God, this lady has such a beautiful voice." And I was curious about who this lady was because everybody has a story, right? And for some reason, something inspired me to want to hear her story and or learn her story, because I said she's probably gone now. She's singing in the 1940s. She's probably not here anymore. And so I looked her up, just Wikipedia, something like that, and went decade by decade because I wanted to know, like, okay, how did she grow up? When did she first get discovered? When did she first blow up? Like, what was her first number one hit? When did she hit her peak? Then when did she hit her decline? What were her relationships like? And it was similar to like any type of Hollywood biopic. She was born super poor in the South, performs at the Apollo, just goes on stage, trying to get away from the South or something, does really well, gets discovered by a record label executive, ends up singing, makes her first big hit in her early 20s and becomes a star, and then ends up traveling the world, living in Europe. And all this time she had all these relationships. She got married, I think, three times. And in those three marriages, what was really fascinating to me was that unfortunately she just wasn't able to really pick the right men in her life. And back at that time, women really trusted men probably more than they do now. Like I think, and this is unfortunate for men that are trustworthy. I really, I like to think I'm a trustworthy man. I do my best to be a stand-up person for the people that I love, but I think that there's been a decline in that trust, and sometimes it's because of the trauma that's come with that. It's come from the fact that there are some people who betray the trust or who abuse their authority and abuse their power. And so, anyway, with that said, though, this was back at a time where women really trusted men. So what she would do is she would give the man in her life complete control over her career. And in every case, it would be like she's the star, he's just a guy that she likes. So she's like, "Here, you're my manager. Here's my finances." And I swear, two out of three of those men literally lost all her damn money. Like after each divorce, she had to rebuild and start singing again in order to make money to make up for the fact that her previous husband had a gambling addiction. Or the other husband, he liked hookers and liquor and also and it just It made me angry. I was mad. I was like, come on, man. And I get it. Slavery, trauma, like Jim Crow. But come on, man. I mean, it just made me so sad. Not to say she was perfect. I mean, I'm sure she had her flaws too, right? I think that we can't get to the point where we're vilifying one group of people. I don't think that's fair either. But at the same time, though, I thought about this poor lady's life and how she got rich, went broke, or sorry, got rich, went bankrupt, got rich again, went bankrupt again, and then I think toward the end of her career, she was trying to catch up, but I don't know exactly how things ended. I wish I could tell you her name. I do not remember her name, and I'm so sorry. Oh, you know what it was. Here we go. Let me tell. I'm gonna sing the first line of her song. I'm a terrible singer, but I'm gonna try to sing it in the way I heard it. In my head, I'm hearing it the way she said it, but you're going to hear something terrible. But I'm going to do it anyway because it might help you find her. And somebody, because y'all are smart and there's 1,000 of you in here, some of you are going to know who this person is. So she gets up there and it's real quiet. Everybody's listening. And then she goes, "Look at me." And then the song is something about I'm as happy as a bird in a tree. Does anybody know who that is? Give me the name of this lady because I think it's important that we know her name. Okay, come on, somebody in the chat. That's the trivia. The first three words of the song are like, "Look at me." She says, "Look at me." She has a big, pretty smile. Come on, come on. Somebody, so give me your name. Come on, somebody give me. Anyway, so here's the deal. Here's the point. My point is, as you all think about what it's like I'm asking the cloud because all of us together, I'm sure all of our brains together can. The first three words were like, "Look at me," and then she starts saying something about I'm as happy as a bird in a tree. It wasn't Billie Holiday. See, no, it could. I don't think it was. No, I think it was Ella Fitzgerald. No, Alice Faye. No, I gotta find out. When I find out, I'll come back and give it to you. It could be. I think it might be Sarah Vaughan. It could be Sarah Vaughan, possibly. Dinah Washington, no. Dakota Stanton, no. Okay, I'll look it up later. I don't want to belabor the point. But here's the point. There is a point to the story, I promise you. The point is that from watching that lady's song, and Terrence, I wish I knew other words. I don't remember the rest of the word. I just remember that was about she was singing something about being as happy as a bird in a tree, and then she said, "Look at me." That was the first word. So anyway, the thing was I remember noticing and kind of thinking, sheesh, wow, like so okay. So a lot of your wealth and protecting your wealth come isn't just about what you do, it's about what people around you do. And sometimes, because of the decisions that are made in our personal relationships, perhaps driven by trauma or bad experience, intergenerational curses. My daddy was like this, so I'm picking men who are just like my daddy. It could have been Nancy Wilson. Look those names up. And when you find out, let me know. Um, you let these people in, you let these scoundrels into your life, and then next thing you know, you're struggling financially. And it's not just on the female side, it's men too. You see athletes go broke sometimes because they marry a woman who is financially irresponsible or who divorces them and takes half of their wealth. A lot of men are broken because of that. And it's just one of these things where these things have to be thought about strategically. For example, when I married my wife, people thought she was marrying me because I had money. And it's like, no, my wife had money. I had money. I actually like the idea of marrying somebody who has something to lose because if she's busy protecting her stuff, then she's not thinking about trying to take my stuff. If everybody's playing defense, ain't nobody got time to play offense. But if you are up here financially, which a lot of you are going to be, a lot of you are going to be very wealthy, a lot of you already are, and then you're connecting with someone who's down here, then you being up here, them being down here instantly puts them up here. So when you then say, okay, well, thank you, I'm ready to move on, then that person's like, wait, I'm up here now. You're trying to put me back down here. That's not going to happen. I'm not going back to where I was before because that's like going back to prison. So I'm going to hold on for dear life. So that means any little thing I have on you, even if I have to make something up, I'm going to use that in order to hold on to you. I think a lot of rappers and entertainers go through that. They think they can just cycle through all kinds of women without it being a big deal, and they don't realize that no, that for that maybe for that woman, sleeping with Drake was the biggest thing that ever happened to her, and you might forget about her in 2 weeks, but she's going to remember you for the rest of her life. That creates this imbalance that can cause problems. So really, If you talk about wealth protection, protecting yourself from not just your own habits, but the habits of others around you is really important. Gambling is one of those bad habits that has destroyed the wealth of many people. And the thing about somebody with a gambling addiction is I would imagine that that person who is going to have financial addictions and also financial problems coming from that addiction is going to be attracted to someone who can help to fund that addiction. Do you get me? Like if I'm $1 million in debt because I love to just gamble and bet all the time, and you got $1 million in your account, in your bank account, and you trust me with all your money, well, that's a perfect fit, right? Parasites are always looking for a host. A parasite will always look for a host. So when you present yourself as a host, you're in trouble, especially it's for some of the men that love to flaunt how much money they have. When you flaunt how much you have and you are showing everybody how you bought this and bought that and how rich you are, and you're getting all this attention and you think that's a good thing because now you've got all this attention from tons of women, you got to realize that there's some parasitic behavior happening where they're giving you the attention because you have something that they need. No different from a woman showing off all her assets, if you know what I mean. You got a lot of attention, and if you're not healed and your self-esteem is built in such a way that you crave and need that attention, even if it's coming from the wrong sources, then I would dare say you end up inviting the wrong people in your life because you don't have any sort of moat, barrier, or filter that's adequate enough to ensure that you preserve and protect that which you have to lose. And this goes back to self-love and self-esteem. If you have self-love, then you won't do that because you are able, because the things you love are the things you'll protect. The things you love are the things that you value. So learning how to love yourself really goes a long way in terms of making good decisions because then you have the ability to say no. Do you understand? When I started doing business, I remember the first exercise I did with myself was one on self-love. I had to tell myself when I was back, I was teaching in Syracuse and I wanted to do, my biggest inspirations were people like Michael Eric Dyson and Cornel West and Julianne Malveaux. Julianne Malveaux was the first public scholar I ever saw. I still remember this lady, I think her name was Mary Nesbitt. She's a therapist now somewhere. And she was sitting on my couch. She came by to visit and she said, "Have you heard of Dr. Julianne Malveaux?" And I said, "No." And she said she wrote a book, and I think it was called Sex, Lies, and Stereotypes. So I bought Julianne's book and I read it and I loved it. And I was inspired, by this public scholar. And then I remember seeing Michael Eric Dyson on BET, and he was doing his old rap thing. He goes really fast, and then it sounded really good. And then Dr. Cornel West, he wrote Race Matters, and Alicia and I went to go see him in at the University of Chicago in like 1999. Like this goes way so it's crazy. Like it's like overwhelming that all these people are my friends now. They're all in my cell phone. So it's kind of like, oh wow, look at that. How cool is that? But I remember when I was thinking about what I wanted to do, one of the first things that I told myself was I said, um, we have to get past, we can't do hero worship to the point where we don't see our own value, our own worth. I had to tell myself, you are somebody, you're already important, you already matter, you're already good at what you do, even if no one acknowledges you. And so by doing that, what that allowed me to do was to spend less time chasing other people down or trying to get next to certain people or just sitting around admiring what everyone else was doing and realizing the importance of the work that I was doing, right? Do you understand? Like I could acknowledge the importance of their work, but it's like, no, now it's my turn to get on the microphone and do my thing. Like I'm gonna really get in here and do work that is so good that everyone's going to know about this work because I'm going to really nail this thing. I'm going to really drill into this thing. And to do that, to really focus on self, to pour into you and to pour into yours and to pour into what's around you, you got to value that. Do you understand? Like I had to really convince myself. I said, no, this is the most important thing you could be working on. This is the most important stuff you can be doing. So you need to pour your time into this. And this is really important for, I think, Black people, because from the time we're born, I believe that we're trained to believe that white people are more important than us. I really do. I really think that we're trained to believe from birth that what they got going on is what matters, that their validation is what matters, that their institutions matter, ours don't. Their communities matter, ours don't. Our job is to sit outside banging on the door for them to let us in. Right, right. That getting a seat at their table matters. Our tables don't matter because we don't because our even if we build a table, it's a garbage table. That's our mindset. And I think that that's the wrong mindset because what happens is that the things you love are the things you pour into. So when you love them, when you are the white supremacists that many of us are, when you love what they're doing, you're going to pour into what they're doing. And you already do it. You don't believe me? Look at how many millions of black people get up every day and go to work for a white man and put more energy into building a white business than they'll ever put into building a black one. Look at how many black people get up and spend money every day and put more money into building white businesses than they'll ever consider putting into black businesses. Everybody's talking about boycotting Target or Costco or whatever, and ain't said nothing about supporting black-owned businesses, which is what you should have been doing in the first place. You boycott Target for 40 days, and you've been boycotting black-owned businesses for 40 years. In fact, the black community's economic disposition is truly an afterthought for a lot of our people. It's like, no, black people don't build anything. We don't own anything. Our businesses are not important. We don't love any of that because it doesn't matter. It's this little raggedy thing. And what you don't understand is that raggedy things become important things when people pour into them. Whatever you give your energy to is what will grow. Whatever you give your energy to, it's as basic as what I give my attention to. If I give all my attention and energy to the hater across the street, then that beef is going to grow. That energy is going to grow. His status grows in my mind. If I give all my energy to cleaning my house is going to get cleaner. If I put my energy into this, I put a lot of energy into what we do every single morning. As a result, it's grown. How else do you think I got almost 1 billion views on YouTube and stuff like that? It's because this is what I put my energy into. So ultimately, the question is, what do you love? Who do you love? What matters for you? Because if you once you decide what matters for you and you stand on that, you stick to that, then that is what you're going to invest in. That's what you're going to pour into. And if you remember the real DEI, the definition of DEI, development, entrepreneurship, and investment, the investing part is the part that makes everything grow. When you invest in things, when you invest time, energy, attention, and then also money into things, those things are the things that grow. So what are you investing your time into? Oh, I go to work for my boss 40 hours a week. Okay, that's no problem. I get it. But you're one of his biggest investors. Um, where are you investing your energy? Where are you investing your attention? Right? Those are the things that are going to grow. And then also, of course, your money, right? So anyway, let me jump back in. Let me finish up on this casino thing because I think that this is important to understand. And I think the casino thing and the gambling issue led me to think about gambling addictions and how bringing somebody into your life who has a gambling problem is something that can really ruin you financially. It happens all the time. It's happening right now. At some point in the next probably year or so, there'll be some big gambling scandal that's going to break, that's going to shock everyone. It won't shock me. I'll be like, "Yep, here it goes," because it's happened before. Anybody remember Pete Rose? Anybody remember when they rigged the World Series? I think it was 1919, right? Anybody remember all the athletes, Art Schlichter and all these athletes that got banned for life for being compulsive gamblers? You don't think with all the money floating around professional sports that there's not some athletes right now who are point shaving like crazy, referees who are making calls at the end of the game to change the game? Like, you don't think that's happening right now? Come on, man. Come on. It's it's like it's crazy. I just don't get it. But anyway, okay. So as I move on, I want to mention later on today we're doing the stock market club's meeting. So if you want to be a part of that, you can go to drboystockmarket.com. We're going to meet at noon. We do that every Tuesday. Yeah, today is Tuesday, right? I lose track of the days. Yeah, so Tuesday we're going to meet. And then also tonight, the crypto club is going to meet as well. We got our crypto expert. You all saw her yesterday. She was really, really good. So she'll be in there. It'll be a small group. You can ask her a million questions, and she's going to do a full presentation and talk to you afterward. And so there are a few things happening there as well. All right, so here are a couple things that casinos do to get your money. I think this is important. This is money mindset, financial psychology. This is how they trick you into giving away all your money. And a lot of people love to go to the casino and show off money and stuff. And I just encourage you not to do that because that's really a reflection of low self-esteem when you feel like you have to do that to get attention. Number one, there's always fine print on these machines. So one of the things about slot machines, this is why this part of the reason this lady lost her 42 million, is there's always like fine print that says things like that a malfunction will void all wins. That basically, if you win, the machine malfunctions, they're not going to pay you, right? And this is similar to most financial institutions. Financial institutions, they become strong financial institutions by protecting their wealth. One way they protect their wealth is through the contracts. So the contracts they have will be just, all this fine print that weighs everything in their direction. So this is why financial literacy, economic intelligence is so important. So you can kind of know how to navigate all of this because unfortunately there are lots of people who don't pay attention to financial literacy who are going to get robbed and scammed and everything else from these institutions. Number two, typically, and you probably know this, the odds are always in the favor of the casino. The house always wins. This is how they stay in business. They have people that do probability and they make sure that the odds are never really in your favor, that you're basically making a donation most of the time to the casino when you go out there. But does that mean that you're stupid for going to the casino, having fun, or going to Vegas? No, it doesn't make you stupid. What it is you're buying entertainment. That's what you're getting. You're buying a little bit of a dopamine rush from the thrill of thinking that you might be one of those people that makes money. Because remember, every day if they bring in 10,000 people, a few thousand of those people are going to walk away with some money. So that's completely okay. So long story short, that's what it is. The odds will always be in their favor. In fact, with sports betting sites, I got to remember to buy some stock in DraftKings because one thing DraftKings is that these companies are realizing is they're learning that the best way for them to make money is not through straight up betting. They're not trying to be bookies because bookies are kind of gambling against the public, right? So what will happen is that they would make a massive profit whenever unpopular teams like in small markets win because people don't bet in their favor. But when popular teams like the Kansas City Chiefs win a lot, they get killed. They get pummeled because they have to pay out all these bets. So what they realize is that people can't really do math at a high level, which most people can. Most people can't do advanced probability theory. So one of the things that they do is is they go and they created these things called parlays. Anybody heard about parlays? Pamela has. Terrence Gunn, yeah, they have these things called parlays, and parlays are perfect because parlays are these little tickets people buy where they're not calculating the odds of winning. They don't know like what do you really know what the probability is that Patrick Mahomes is gonna rush for 100 yards and that Saquon Barkley is going to rush for less than 90 yards and that the Eagles are gonna score on in the third quarter and that whatever, right? So they'll have these bets where you can bet on a sequence of events, a sequence of random events that have these different probabilities, and people will buy the parlays because they're fun. They're not buying the parlays because they sat down and did advanced probability theory to determine what the precise odds are to figure out what the expected value of their bet is. They're not doing that. They're just like, oh, here's $10. I don't care. So what they're basically doing is they are selling lottery tickets. That's what they're selling, these crazy lottery tickets, and people are buying them like crazy. So the future of that arena, in my opinion, is heavily leaning toward parlays. It really to the point where if I was in their business, I'd be like, we ain't doing no more straight up betting. We're gonna do parlays. Or maybe the straight up betting is a loss leader to do the parlays where you're really making the real money. Because what happens is that the amount of money they bring in far exceeds the amount they have to pay out. And that's the secret of running a business. You make more money than you spend. So ultimately, just remember they always lean the odds in their favor. So just keep that in mind, right? Just know that and then I think you know this, but I just want to remind you that the other things that they do is they do a lot of near wins. They like to make you think that you might win. They want you to feel like you're close enough. They want you to just kind of taste it, like, oh, if I spin one more time, I might win. So that's like a little trick. They randomize things in a certain way so that you're like, oh, dang it, I was this close, and that makes you keep going. That's a way they keep you hooked. Also, lots of free stuff. They make you feel like a baller. They'll give you free food and free comps, and people like to brag about being a VIP at the casino, which unfortunately, if you brag about the fact that you get comped a lot at the casino, that unfortunately could mean that they're comping you extensively because they feel like you're kind of a sucker. I'm not making fun of anybody in that category, but what they're doing is they're feeding your ego by being like, "Oh, hey, Mr. Wilson, you're a VIP. We got your suite ready, and we're gonna pick you up in a limo." Of course, they're doing all that because they're like, "This dude's gonna come up in here and give us $1 million or $100,000 or whatever the number is. Yeah, we'll give you a $200 room if you're gonna give us $50,000 by the end of the weekend." So all those comps and free stuff and all that, that's another little trick they use to feed compulsive gambling. There are lots of lawsuits right now out against companies like DraftKings for basically finding the people who have the biggest gambling addictions and allegedly and feeding the addiction. Just feeding the addiction. It's kind of like how a lot of people were claiming that R. Kelly, when they realized he had these peculiar preferences when it came to women, they were feeding that. There were people feeding that. He wasn't the only. Don't get me wrong. He's a dirtbag for sure. And I talked about this back in 2003, 2004. I publicly said, why are we still supporting this man? He needs help. He needs help, and the girls need protection. But y'all just are excited because he's rich and famous, and you think that that makes everything okay. That's not okay, and it's not okay for him either because I think that if somebody had intervened and shut down the money and forced him to get help, I think he could have been an asset to himself, to his family, and to his community. R. Kelly is one of the most talented singers I have ever heard. I went years ago because I told you my wife and I have been friends for a long time, and we were all on a boat one time a long time ago, and I didn't know much about him, but I heard him sing, I heard "Step in the Name of Love," and I said, "Man, this guy can sing. Like he's right there. He's almost, I dare say, up there with Michael Jackson in terms of talent. This man is amazing." But it's like sad because I liked him also because he just represented Chicago, he represented the hood. Like imagine R. Kelly as a healthy human being. Like imagine if R. Kelly was imagine if he spent like 2 hours a week talking to someone like me, right? And all the stuff that I talk about, and we were talking constantly about how he could use that power and that talent to really, really elevate the world, that I think it would be quite amazing, and that's why I get excited. I actually enjoy those opportunities every now and then when I do talk to someone who's got far more power than I'll have. Like so when Ice Cube and I were spending time on the phone, it was nice to say, okay, look, I'm glad you're hearing me. Let me give you some ideas on ways I would use that power if I had it. It's your power. You're the man. I'm not Ice Cube, but still. Here's some things I think you could do that could really change the world, right? And I tried that with Kanye. It didn't work so well, but there's been some other people I've talked to, and I wish like with the R. Kelly, I'm kind of like, gosh, I would love to just talk to that guy because he's so talented, so brilliant. He's charismatic as hell. He's it's almost like it's almost like there was this deal with the devil that he ended up making because he's carrying all this weight in his soul that makes him into a person that he probably doesn't like. I bet even he doesn't like himself, right? And I think this to me speaks to the idea that somebody needs to slap that microphone out your hand, take that money away, put you in a space where you can really focus and become the person that God meant for you to be. And unfortunately, what happens is sometimes that happens in prison, because in prison it's harder to get drugs and you can't get women. You got to get these cheap substitutes for women. And it's a very horrible, scary, traumatic experience. And sometimes people come out worse than when they came in. But I've seen guys actually, when they get away from the distraction, come out of prison as better people too, right? So it kind of depends. It's kind of a mixed bag. But just for the record, I think prison's just a terrible place, and I really wish we would adopt some of the ideas from like places like Finland and other places where they're like really focused on rehabilitating people and making them better. They don't do that. Our prisons don't. Their goal is to make them worse by putting them through worse experiences, and that impacts the black community too, right? So let me keep going. Let me keep moving on with this gambling casino thing. All right. And by the way, shout out to everybody who survived. the prison system, who has come out better. I admire you immensely, and you have my respect. Okay, so what else do they do? Oh, another thing casinos do to get your money is they don't put clocks or windows inside the casinos. They also put extra oxygen. The oxygen makes you feel good. The clocks make you time conscious. So their goal to get your money is to reduce your consciousness. So because I want you to have more money, I call this class financial consciousness. Because when your consciousness is elevated, you're looking around, you're alert, you know what's going on, you're asking questions, you're trying to figure things out. When you're not conscious, you're like, so drugs make you unconscious. Entertainment can make you unconscious. People feeding your ego can make you unconscious. Not having the clocks or the windows makes you unconscious. There's all kinds of things that are designed to rig things in their favor so they can just take your money. Just like no differently from a man getting, knocked out, a drunk man getting hit upside the head in a dark alley, and he's laying on the ground and he's like knocked out, and everyone's taking money out of his pockets. That's what I visualize when I think about what happens to our community and when it comes to wealth. They hit you upside the head. You're half drunk. They get you drunk, hit you upside the head, and then they're taking money out of your pockets while you're distracted or while you're unconscious. So you don't want to be unconscious, especially in the game of global economic warfare. These folks ain't playing with you. They're not trying to be your friend. They're not trying to protect you. They will never protect you if you refuse to protect yourself. That's a fallacy. They will never help the black community if the black community refuses to help the black community. In fact, even if the black community tries to help the black community, they're still not going to help the black community. They're not here to save your family. They don't care about you. Stop saying Black Lives Matter because they don't matter to a lot of people who are not black. Just like for me, honestly, Arab lives matter. I don't wake up every day saying Arab lives matter or Chinese lives matter or Jewish lives matter or white lives matter. I'm not saying I don't care or I don't wish the best for other people, but I'm not waking up thinking about how I can make sure that a Chinese man is safe today. It's up to him to figure out how to be safe. If he can't figure that out, then unfortunately, you know, the laws of survival of the fittest probably kick in. All right, so let's keep going. The other thing they do is they put ATM machines everywhere. That's a big deal. And then of course the odds are always against you. These jackpots, they'll advertise the big number, and the odds of actually winning are like 1 in 40 million or something. So really, spending lots of time in the casino unfortunately does not work well for you financially. Also, financial markets. Many people use financial markets as a casino. There are people that invest on Robinhood the same way they would if it was, if it was a casino or gambling market. So ultimately, what you want to do is when you're talking about building wealth, hard work is a great place to start. But remember, working is the hardest way on earth to make money. You work long enough to get to the point where you don't have to work anymore. And the way you do that is you get to the point where you learn all the different ways to make money without working. And that's where investing and things like that come into play. Everybody who cares about their children and their grandchildren should be an investor. Anybody who loves their family members should be investing, because the reality is like this. Look, if somebody in your family had just bought you tiny amounts of stock starting in like 1930, you'd be filthy freaking rich. You'd be insanely rich. Now, one area that wealth was taken from the black community was through like things like redlining, where the property values wouldn't go up in black neighborhoods because they kind of kept us out of certain areas where the values were going up or where loans were being given. And that's something that we're owed reparations for that they stole that money from us. But still, at the same time, there were some areas where money could be made. There were some opportunities out there, and a lot of times it's just awareness, right? Consciousness. So once you gain consciousness, you have a responsibility to decide, am I going to execute on that consciousness, or I know new things now. I know what my grandparents didn't know. Am I going to do different, or am I going to still choose ignorance? Am I going to choose to be uninformed? Am I going to choose to be unactive? Right. So I encourage you to make the right choice, because financial anxiety and financial trauma and financial insecurity brings a lot of pain with it. Right. So if I'm inflicting pain on my kids and grandkids, then I might be accused of abuse. I'm abusing them. If I know that white folks don't love you like that, but I tell my child, well, you're gonna get it out the mud, and I need you to go work for Mr. Charlie in order to get ahead. even if he's mean to you, and hurt your feelings and has you crying every night, so you're wanting to kill yourself, drinking yourself to sleep every night because you hate your life so much, and I subject you to that. That don't even make no damn sense. That's not love. That's hate. That's hate. I'm piling on the abuse. So let's not pile on the abuse. Let's give them an escape plan, give them an opportunity. If you go to blackwealthmasterplan.com, that's where the $5 a day plan is. Blackwealthmasterplan.com. You can take a look at that. Also, make sure you're on the text list for this class. If you're not on the text list for this class, text the word morning to the number 87948. And in addition to that, in the texting morning, we also are going to go to Ghana this summer. If you want to go to Ghana with us, or you're interested in traveling with us, we're going to do some group travel. You can text the word travel to that same number, 87948, and there's stuff out there that we're going to do, and I'll let you guys know. I'll keep you informed. Okay, all right. So anyway, it was great to see you. I hope this conversation was beneficial. I know we talked about a little bit of everything. I'm gonna try to find out the name of that singer. Maybe one of y'all got the name right, but I remember the first three words of that song. She said, "Look at me," and everybody started clapping when she started singing, like they knew the song. So it's got to be a famous, popular song. But that was what was so interesting. I learned from watching people's lives. I would do this. I've been doing this since I was about 20. I would look at other people's lives from beginning to end, and I would just study it because almost like playing a video game. The more you study it, the better you're going to get at the game. So I would literally study people's lives. Like, how did they lose it all? How did he go down? Like, how did he, he was the man, and how did everything mess up? Oh, it's because he married that lady, or oh, Muhammad Ali fought too many fights, and he gave himself or he may have injured himself by fighting far beyond when he needed to, because Ali could have been wealthy enough to stop boxing when he was 30 years old or 32 years old. After the Foreman fight, he should have retired, right? So you learn from everyone, whether they're your heroes or not. And I would encourage you to do that, because what you'll find is that when you talk about choices in life, like the choices in life are what determine your economic outcomes. You marry the right person, that can really propel you to the highest levels. You marry the wrong person, they can destroy everything. And it's kind of interesting to me, because if you start realizing these things, then you'll start thinking more deeply about those simple choices. Like, you'll start realizing, wait a minute, the only reason I started dating this girl was because she had a nice booty, and maybe a booty shouldn't determine my whole future. Or I only dated this man because he was nice to me. He told me I was pretty, and I had low self-esteem, and because my dad didn't love me, and this led me to let this murderer in my life, like, or whatever, right? So I think that just having that self-reflection, this is what therapy does. Therapy helps you just look at yourself, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Like my therapist helped me realize that I kind of married my mom, and I dated my mom two or three times in my life. Not my real mom, not that way, but you know what I mean. And I was like, oh, buddy. And then I looked at a picture of my mother and my wife together, and they look almost identical. They look like my wife's mother said that my wife looks more like my mother than she looks like her own mother. And that's the subconscious. That's all, so all that baggage that comes with mama and daddy and upbringing affects you. And if you can get to the bottom of that, then the sooner you get to the bottom of that, the sooner you can make decisions that make sense, or at least be aware of when you're tempted to make a bad decision. I think that's really important. All right, so I'll text you guys the link to join the crypto club tonight. I'll send it out today on that. If you text morning to 87948, you'll get a couple of texts today. I'll invite you to stock market class. I'll also invite you to the crypto club, so you can decide if you want to attend. And I hope you guys have a great day. God bless you. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye bye.